Democrats file lawsuit over potential use of federal troops at polling places. The Democratic National Committee (DNC) has taken proactive legal action to prevent potential voter intimidation ahead of the upcoming midterm elections in a new lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia under the Freedom of Information Act. The DNC is seeking documents from the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and the Department of Justice regarding any plans to deploy federal troops at polling locations. The lawsuit follows concerns over statements made by former President Donald Trump suggesting the federal government could intervene in the voting process. In October, the DNC sent formal requests instructing these agencies to disclose any plans involving military or law enforcement personnel at polling sites. The requests specifically ask for information about the deployment of personnel with law enforcement responsibilities to polling places, ballot drop boxes, or election offices from early voting through election certification. Legal experts highlight that using federal troops to influence voters at polling locations would violate federal law, specifically 18 U.S. 592, which criminalizes the presence of armed personnel at places of election. Violations carry a potential prison sentence of up to 5 years. This action comes amid a pattern of behavior observed during the previous election cycle, including the Trump administration's controversial raids and attempts to obtain voter data in states such as Georgia and Arizona. Legal advocates argue that these efforts underscore the necessity of preemptive litigation to ensure voter safety and protect the integrity of elections. The DNC and Democratic attorneys general emphasize that Americans have the right to refuse illegal orders, including those that would violate constitutional or federal law. Public statements from officials encourage members of the military, intelligence, and law enforcement communities to uphold their oaths and protect citizens' constitutional rights. The lawsuit also reflects broader Democratic priorities: expanding access to voting, protecting mail-in and absentee ballots, ensuring accessibility for voters with disabilities, and preventing disenfranchisement. Democrats argue that any attempt to intimidate voters undermines these principles and could impact participation in elections. In contrast, the Republican Party's approach to election administration has focused on maintaining restrictive measures, including limiting early voting, restricting mail-in ballots, and controlling access to polling sites. Democratic officials warn that such restrictions could suppress turnout and disproportionately affect marginalized communities, potentially influencing election outcomes. The new legal action underscores the proactive strategy of Democrats to safeguard the electoral process. By using the courts to compel transparency from federal agencies, the DNC aims to prevent any preemptive actions that could intimidate voters or interfere with their constitutional rights. As the midterms approach, legal observers and political analysts are closely monitoring this case. It is part of a broader effort to ensure that elections are free, fair, and accessible to all eligible voters. The outcome of this lawsuit could set a precedent for the role of federal law enforcement and military personnel in future elections and clarify the legal boundaries regarding voter intimidation at polling places. The DNC has pledged to continue monitoring election security and will pursue court injunctions if evidence arises that federal troops or agents may be used inappropriately. Legal experts note that Freedom of Information Act lawsuits like this often provide crucial information that can prevent potential violations of federal law before they occur. This action also signals a renewed focus by Democrats on election integrity and the protection of voters' rights. By taking the initiative rather than waiting for Election Day, the party seeks to ensure that every eligible citizen can participate without fear or interference.